Namaste and a very warm welcome to the Nationalist Madrasi. Today we have a very special guest, Dr. Nanda Kishor, who is an assistant professor in Pondicherry University, an expert in the international relations, and he regularly occurs in the media to discuss about what happens in the world and in the neighborhood of India. Thank you, Nanda Kishor ji, for joining with us. It's a pleasure always hosting you and talking with you about the international relations as well.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
And give us a background about what happened in the Pahalgam, because the attack has been done. 26 innocent lives has been laid down by the terrorist, and we were in, I think, the entire country, and there are back-to-back meetings which is happening in the residence of the Prime Minister as well as we speak. And so we can see a lot of international movements which is also happening. That is, the foreign minister speaking to many minister of foreign affairs to many other countries like Italy and other major countries also. So give us give us a small background of what happened in Pahalgam.
Sure. At the outset, thanks for having me here. And at the same time, I join in crores and crores of Indians in country, and then people all over the world who have been mourning the death of the innocents in the Pahalgam attack in Kashmir on the 22nd of April 2025. I've said this before. I continue to say that there is no possibility of an attack of this sort without the people joining hands within the country. This is first line of defense. If you look at the type of coastline that we have, 7,000 400 odd kilometers of coastline. Who is guarding actually? Do we have the police everywhere? Do we have the Coast Guard everywhere? Do we have the Navy everywhere guarding it? It is the fishermen, it is the local population that is the first line of defense with regard to India's national security. Now, in case of Kashmir, it's very, very clear that though the mood is changing, there are a good number of people who are also in favor of India and then in favor of the nation that they belong to. There is also a very, very large number of people who still think that they don't belong to, or Kashmir doesn't belong to India. And this is a very, very clear case of a planned attack where a recce must have been done. And in a perfect way, they have planned to carry out an attack. And that too, knowing that the type of population that would come and what engulfed what we heard from the people is very, very tragic, because this has so much of grief that has been brought across the world. It's not just India. I think people all over the world have been mourning, and I think had it been the case of just the forces being killed here, the case would have been absolutely different. But these are innocent tourists who have just gone to perhaps enjoy themselves, being with the family. Some of them were just married, and there will be hundreds of stories that we will hear from these people. And it's a ghastly attack that should not have happened. I think this is a blunder. I don't even call it as a mistake. Pakistan has done a blunder for which it will pay a very, very hefty price. That price might be geopolitical, it might be ecological, it might be humanitarian. It will even have strategic implications depending on what India is planning to go ahead with. India has been very firm. I think most of the countries across the world have been with India except for a few. Just to name in hands we can name. Otherwise, most of the countries are with India, and they are profoundly supporting India in this particular action.
Chip, let us talk about the international implications of this particular issue. I think this attack took place when US Vice President J.D. Vance was in India. If I'm not wrong, he was in India tour for I think 2 to 4 days. He was in Delhi, he was in Jaipur, he was in Agra. And then on his visit of a second day to India, this attack took place, if I'm not wrong. Then he immediately spoke to our Prime Minister, and US President spoke to Prime Minister and condemned the killings as well. And the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, also issued a statement regarding the mentioning, as well as the mentioning of all those who have killed are Hindus as well. So I think a large number of world community leaders, especially from the powerful countries, have spoken to the Prime Minister personally, and they have condemned, and those who stood with us, we can name a lot of country as well. So you particularly mentioned it, Pakistan has made a blunder as well. So did Pakistan expect? Would Pakistan have not expected this kind of a support, which is wavering to India? How do you see this instant, Nanda Kishore?
Yeah, that's a very, very important point that you brought out, and also a very important question at the end. India is not the same India that used to be maybe a decade or before. India is a changed India. This India is a confident India. This India is a capable India. This India is also a country with conviction. That is the reason from Putin to Macron to all leaders, from Putin, from even Trump to everybody spoke to the Prime Minister. And what it simply tells is that we are all united when it comes to the question of terrorism. That's point number one. Point number two is also that the Indian leadership at this juncture is extremely critical for the world order also. And no country perhaps has the capacity to bypass India or to say or brush aside India to that extent. That's the sort of difference that we are seeing even in China's behavior. Now, this is crucial for India. Perhaps this is where I use the term blunder with regard to Pakistan, because Pakistan seems to be living in the Cold War era, where many of these countries would simply support Pakistan blindly, or the Islamic Conference would condemn India on several occasions. Those days are gone. Now, the Prime Minister has been receiving highest civilian awards from some of the Arabic nations, from the Islamic nations, pure Islamic nations, unlike Pakistan. Now, many of these leaders are with India. They see India as a very, very potential leader. Now, in such a scenario, trying out something like this on India, where the government keeps the highest priority for national security, is certainly a blunder that perhaps Pakistan should not have committed. Now, Pakistan is at a crossroad now, because it is in a shocker that number of people or number of countries that it anticipated that they would stand by them has gone. That this whole dialogue of freedom fighters or asking to Islamize everything, those things are gone. Those days are also gone. India is a very, very different India that they are seeing. If you hit us, we will hit you back in much harder way. That's exactly what India is trying to convey here. And it thought that it will get away with any of these things. That's the reason we are seeing a very large number of people are also actually moving away from the Pakistan forces, thinking that there's going to be a war and it's going to be devastating. And that's the place where India stands at this juncture.
Let us talk about the retaliation or the steps taken by the Indian government, especially. I think Indus Water Treaty has been cancelled, and the strength of the high commissions from both the sides have been reduced, and all the Pakistani citizens who are in India has been asked to leave out the country within the next 48 hours as well. And so there has been a huge implications from the Indian side, which we can say is a diplomatic, not on a strategic or like in a hard way. So whatever we have done is a diplomatic way of attacking or the giving back to Pakistan. So I think Indus Water Treaty has pitched 4 wars, if I'm not wrong. 48, 65, 71 and Kargil as well. So these are the wars where even after wars, the Indus Water Treaty have withstood. But after the killings happened in Palgam, the first thing Indian government done was the cancelling the Indus Water Treaty. And I think the Jal Shakti Minister Secretary has also returned to Pakistan's water resources secretary or minister, something that this act is null and void. So you please take the necessary steps which is needed for you as well. So what made the government to cancel this Indus Water Treaty? And as you say, what is the Indus Water Treaty and how important it is to the Pakistan?
First, to the point of why actually India did this one. See, India has been telling from 2016, we have already cut down on our relations with Pakistan. And India is of the firm opinion that what did we gain by being friendly to Pakistan every time, bowing down to them, this Aman Ki Asha, to so many other things. And now having withdrawn, what is the difference? Let us even take a count from 1947. You will really not find the number of attacks or anything of that sort have drastically come down. That might be because of the demonetization. It can be from some other perspective, but all said and done, to a very large extent, India has been able to do this one. Now, why India is doing this one is very, very clear that blood and water cannot flow together. If Pakistan thinks that it is some other government and it can do something and get away, this is a very, very bad move. Because India views water as a very, very powerful tool of leverage. Because if Pakistan continues to sponsor or tolerate terrorism against India, the logic of continuing to hold up a particular treaty that disproportionately actually benefits Pakistan becomes untenable from a national security standpoint of view. Now, withdrawal or suspension could be construed not merely as a punitive action but also as a strategic calibration to reassess what are India's sovereign rights. It is within the rights of India to do so, because India has been trying to be patient and India is trying to work out on diplomatic front. India is not trying to provoke. India is not trying to do anything. Irrespective of this one, the cross-border terrorism doesn't seem to be stopping. Whether it is the Uri of 2016, Pulwama of 2019, or Pahalgam of 2025. I don't see any change that has come in. Now, coming to the other point, that what exactly is Indus Water Treaty, if you look in, the Indus Water Treaty, as you mentioned, has withstood three major wars that has happened between India and Pakistan, and it has not been changed or anything of that sort, because India was always concerned with regard to the civilian population in Pakistan. Now, what it does is it allocates three eastern rivers, that is Ravi, Beas, and Sutlej, to India, and three western rivers, that is Indus, Jhelum, and Chenab, to Pakistan. Now, with the limited usage rights to India for the non-consumptive purposes, that is irrigation and hydropower, despite frequent military tensions, and the treaty has remained to whatever large extent on mutual dependence, and at the same time bit of backing from the World Bank, because it happened under the aegis of the World Bank. India has not done anything extreme. Now, the time has come here where India wants to do this one as a very, very strong message, and it has not been condemned by anybody. For that matter, no great power across the world has condemned India's behavior. Now, from a legal point of view, let me put it this way. From a legal standpoint, India could actually invoke this one. There is no such compulsion on India. Article 62 of the Vienna Convention of the Law of the Treaties, if you look at, it allows the withdrawal from a treaty on the grounds of fundamental change of circumstances. This is very important that we need to remember, particularly if one party actually engages in hostile acts or violates the spirit of the agreement. And India has everything to talk about. From the time the Indus Water Treaty has come, so many, treaties have been taken care of. So many mutual assurances have been given. So many measures have been put across in place, yet Pakistan continues to behave in this way. This is very dangerous, and Pakistan is working in the detriment of the Pakistani civil society. It is Pakistan that's going to be getting affected by this particular measure more than that of India. India is very clear. India has said that this is something that I'm using as a last resort in the diplomatic component. Had I wanted to, like Uri or Pulwama, I could have reacted, I could have done that one, but I have not done this one. I'm taking very serious measures. I'm also seeing myself as a responsible player, not someone who's reacting to a situation. India is responding to a situation, and India has taken a very, very justifiable stand. I think the whole of India and the rest of the world, all those countries and individuals who are sensitive, who know what has happened to India, are all standing by. I don't think nobody will ever will say against this particular act of India.
Nanda Kishorji, a small thought on what China is going to do, because China is one of the important player in the South Asia as well, and we can say it is a prominent proxy to Pakistan as well. And but China seems to be very silent, and I think China also didn't condemn the killings which happened. And what is China going to? What is China up to, Nanda Kishorji? And what will be China doing if, let's say, if India, Pakistan goes to war? What will be China's steps, or what will be China's actions as well?
Now, if you look at the type of lukewarm response that Pakistan attack on India gave from China's perspective, it is not at all anywhere closer to what we anticipated. It's very carefully calibrated diplomatic posture. Now, unlike other major powers that condemned the attack from the highest level, China's response reflects its just strategic interest in South Asia. It doesn't seem to be having that humane component that it can also be a victim one day. Now, foremost, China's deep and enduring partnership, which you also made a mention with Pakistan, compels it to tread cautiously on issues linked to terrorism in Kashmir. Now, a strong condemnation could be perceived as criticism of Pakistan, which Pakistan would not want to do because Pakistan has been an all-weather friend. Furthermore, if you look in, China's official stance treats Kashmir as a disputed territory because it is an explicit and high-level condemnation risk that signals perhaps in favor of India, and India has taken offense to this one time and again because there is very, very clear understanding with regard to, let's say, the China-Pakistan economic corridor. CPEC is essentially part of China's Belt and Road Initiative, and Pakistan would never be left alone by China. But at the same time, it will be very interesting. Will China get involved in the whole process? That might be a very interesting component because additionally, if you look at, given the competitive dynamic between India and China, particularly after the border clashes and growing geopolitical rivalry, Beijing is actually unlikely to offer any sort of unqualified diplomatic solidarity with New Delhi. That's for sure. With India, they are not going to show solidarity because China's patterns of selectively condemning terrorism because of their own homegrown terror that is associated with what is happening in Xinjiang is absolutely different. Because China's measured reaction essentially reflects a blend of strategic alliance with Pakistan, its Kashmir policy, and also the third point, that is the broader rivalry with India. It simply demonstrates how geopolitical interests actually shape even higher than that of the humanitarian responses. This is the very important component. Now, given a chance, let's say, taking forward your question, what would be the possible response if at all there is going to be an escalation of conflict between India and Pakistan? What would be Pakistan's situation and what would be China's response in this particular scenario? If you look in, China's response would likely be governed by a very, very strategic calculus rooted in what we call as the realpolitik. I made a mention with regard to even the power dynamics that is associated with the region itself. China's interest lies very strongly with regard to South Asia. Now, as a key stakeholder, which I mentioned with regard to CPEC, and bound by what they call as also a quasi-alliance of all-weather strategic partnership, China would offer a very robust diplomatic, economic and intelligence support, not a military support as such. It will never ever go for a direct military intervention unless its core is threatened or anything of that sort. They are not going to do. Point number two, that Beijing certainly or China would likely to leverage its influence in international forums such as, let's say, UNSC to diplomatically shield Pakistan. That's been their case even with terrorists. We are very clearly aware of by possibly calling for ceasefire under the guise of maintaining regional stability. Now, through grey zone tactics that China has been using, China could also actually intensify pressure on India along the line of actual control, creating some sort of what we call as the two-front dilemma for India and forcing some sort of a strategic outreach where India is forced to go back and forth. But however, China would simultaneously aim to avoid escalation into a larger regional conflagration because of their BRI and everything. We are also aware because had they wanted to, when we had issues in Galwan and other places, they could have actually done that one. They will not do this one. But what they will largely try to do is use coercive diplomacy and also bring in some amount of strategic ambiguity by trying to operate through UNSC rather than directly trying to get into the confrontation. This is my hunch with regard to China's behavior.
Having said that, China has been heavily invested economically in terms of economic investments in Pakistan. What will happen to that, Nanda Kishor?
Yeah, it is very interesting because now if China does something, we will also try out our own ways of dealing with them. That is first part. We have Balochistan as a card. We will also play, and Balochistan is extremely crucial because there's a larger and a greater Chinese presence there, and Pakistan will be troubled, and India will open up all its provisions, whatever that is possible, and India will certainly try to trouble Pakistan in different ways, and that will have a direct effect on China. That is one of the reasons China would not want this escalation to go to next level. It would perhaps tell even Pakistan to wait and watch or to take a measured way maybe even tell them to go in the legal way. Though there are water mouths and there are these motor mouths in Pakistan who have been talking about that the blood will flow. This is the war cry. All sorts of things they are talking about it. I think at the highest level, decision making in Pakistan will be coerced by China not to go for a war because it is not in their interest. It's going to be very, very problematic for them because Pakistan will further demand money from China only because these days, especially when you have Trump, he's not going to give money to Pakistan. Unlike the era where we had Biden, where we had Obama, who are very, very concerned about Pakistan and were sponsoring terrorism. They were paying money. They're not going to do this one. So Balochistan is going to be a trigger point because that's an access they have for the warm water ports. They also have massive investments that they have done, and they have lot many other concerns because it gives them access to lot of things, including Central Asia, to many other things. So they will not want to disturb this one. There will be a great implication on China as well in this particular scenario.
Kishorji, what is the further steps of India? As the time we speak actually. Prime Minister has met National Security Advisor, Defense Minister, Chief of Defense Staffs, Chief of Army and Air Marshal and Chief of Navy as well. So all were present in a meeting, and the picture as recently came out as well. And it is also said that the Prime Minister will be meeting the RSS Chief Mohan Bhagwat also. So we saw the pictures that the Home Minister and the External Affairs Minister presenting a red file to Rashtrapati President, that is Madam Draupadi Murmu, who is the chief of all, Commander-in-Chief of all the defense forces as well. So a series of meeting has been taking places. And so what is the next step, or like we have seen all diplomatic actions which have been taken place. We have talked about in detail as well, and we have spoke about the Chinese factor, and let's talk about what will happen next. That is exactly the war situation between. But right now, what will be the steps which are going to be taken, and what is India's next game of plan or action plan according to you, Nanda Kishor?
I think the Prime Minister spoke openly, and he has said that he has given free hand to the forces to take the decision that they want to. In which way they want to respond, he is going to allow them to do so. This is what has been one of the outcomes of the meetings that he has been holding continuously in one or the other form. That is the first part. Second, India will also create a very strong narrative within the country and also outside the country to condemn Pakistan, because the condemning is a very, very powerful tool, and they will make sure that they create a narrative that Pakistan has to be punished. And we will also see to it that if we are going for any all front war, or we are going to punish them in any other way, we are going to take all these great parts into or on board to make sure that they are not going to say anything against India. This is going to be India's major way of dealing with this one. Now, apart from this one, there are also other key projects that are happening in the valley itself with regard to some of the rivers. Now, what will India do is there is this Baglihar hydroelectric project that's happening in Jammu and Kashmir with regard to Chenab River, which is a 900 megawatts actually in two phases, capacity one. It has been already commissioned because Pakistan has been having objection with regard to this one, saying that the height of the dam and the storage capacity is high, and it's going to deprive it's going to deprive Pakistan water, and India is going to make this a real case and real issue. Second is the Kishan Ganga hydroelectric project, which is a Jhelam's tributary. If you look in, there also we have a 330 megawatt one. This has been commissioned in 2018. Here also Pakistan has been telling that we have diverted the water, and then they are not going to have enough water, and this is, we are going beyond the allowed level and other things. We are going to make sure that this is going to be a big issue. Then there are other ones, including the Rattle hydroelectric project, Pakuldul hydroelectric project, Lower Kalnai hydroelectric project, and many of these things that are going to trouble Pakistan, and India is going to activate all these things, and we are going to put them into a different type of a problem where civil society in Pakistan will rise against their own state. Because as of now, they have been flagging every time the Kashmir issue, Islamiyat, and so many other things, and then they are trying to create a situation in Pakistan to fight against India. Now, the real scenario will be when India has cut off the trade, India is not giving essentials. India is not allowing a lot of things to happen. India has asked people to leave. There are medical issues that are going to be. A lot of Pakistanis were coming for higher medical care to everything. Now there's going to be a real crisis that's going to happen here. Now, apart from this, India is also planning for future project that includes the Uj multi-purpose project that's called in the Kathua district. There is also Shahpur Kandi project. This is also on the Ravi river that we have. And then we also have the Jispa Dam, which is on the Bhaga river in Himachal Pradesh. Now, each of these will make it very, very problematic for Pakistan because Pakistan feels pathetically threatened with regard to the downstream dependency that they have been, because 80% of their irrigation and water needs come from this. Second is the flow manipulation fear, that they think that India has strategic control over this one, and then we are going to use the hydrological coercion to control Pakistan to a very large extent. Third point is the strategic infrastructure build-up, that we are going to see to it that we are using every drop of water. We are also going to put them into different problem, and we will also see to it that World Bank will not be able to interfere here. These are the two components. One, we have said that the military confrontation, that the free hand that the Prime Minister has given, that is going to happen. Second component is we have seen how narrative will be built across within the country and outside the country. Now, all party meeting would be called very soon because the opposition parties are saying we should give back in a very strong manner, because they have understood that this has come out in a very different way across the public, and public are not going to keep quiet thanks to social media, to everything. Otherwise, the narratives used to be different previously. Now, that has not been the case now this time, though in the initial first 1 or 2 days, people were trying to manipulate, but now I think it's very, very clear. So that's going to be the component 2. Water is going to be the component 3. Apart from this one, India is also going to cut down on a lot of other ways, including using diplomatic pressure from other countries, including the United States, trying to bring in, if there is a possibility to have sanctions or anything of the sort with regard to Pakistan. I see these as probable ones, because already we have started off on the hunting of all those people who are involved in terror, and we know where they are hiding, where there are certain places. I think this gives a free hand for India to do what it has to be. The one big step that I see as a last resort, because we have also seen Pakistan putting down on the Shimla, agreement, just as a tit for tat, without even understanding that they were the losers, and then we signed the Shimla agreement. Mrs. Gandhi was much more compassionate about them. They don't know what's going to be the outcome. I see that a very, very strong move has to be made with regard to taking over the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. That's going to be the fulcrum. I think that's a long-term desire of very large number of Indians, and it is something that this government has to fulfill. If it is done, then perhaps that will be a strategic victory. And this is the right time, when we see across the world in different places, this is the way lesson has been taught. I think India should also go ahead with this one without even feeling or having any sort of moralistic yardstick or anything of that sort, because morality will be used against the country which has morality. A country that just believes in losing both the eyes and wants to pluck one eye of India, wants to bleed India with 1,000 cuts. We are not going to keep quiet. I think the Prime Minister taking the President on board and the Council of Ministers and the forces, whether they are prepared and they are capable of doing, we should just take over the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. That is going to be the most perfect solution for this type of behavior and this problem between India and Pakistan. That's my submission.
Nanda Kishorji, one final question to you actually. Since the attack has been done, you know very well, and all these terrorist camps would have been shifting their bases or shifted their bases right now. So, if at all, like, because this is not a very big challenge for the Indian Army or the Indian Air Force as well, but it will be somewhat a little bit of a challenge to them. So, since you mentioned POK, and I would further like to go, what will be there in the other side, like what after POK, because this is not going to stop if we retake back the POK also. And there are commentaries which have been passed by the retired military colonels that go off once in a hand and finish off the Pakistan. and destroy them, destroy all the terrorist camps. This has nothing to do with the civilians as well. This is primarily with the military part at the terrorist camps, basically, which is in and out around the places as well. And since you mentioned about the Balochistan as well, and I think the protest from the Baluch Liberal Army has been done. There is a huge number of protests, and there has been a huge protest for a separate country of Balochistan as well. So, compiling all these things, so what is going to be there for Pakistan? Let's say if a war is happening, what will be remaining for Pakistan? What is there for Pakistan?
Remembering what we did in the previous time, whenever they had this type of attacks, I think Pakistan thinks it's over smart and it must have shifted all the things by thinking that there will be precision attacks and other things. And India is very much aware of this one, during the time of crisis and during the war, generally we say we should go against common sense. Now, Pakistan is using common sense and trying to get these people away, get their camps relocated and all that thing. I think India is very well aware of that. We should simply go against their common sense now. There are certain things that they are thinking, this is how India is going to be. Their war table will be going on through this one, that they are just simply worried and they must be thinking that what would be actually India's action. Now, India has put this, strategic dilemma in them not to understand that till now they have not attacked. So, what is going to be their attack? Till now, we don't really see that they are coming out with any sort of military action, what exactly they are going to do. On the one hand, we have sent aircraft carriers in the Arabian Sea to be prepared, and then the United States is sending aircrafts. There are others who are sending aircrafts. So they are simply confused that how come, except for 2 or 3 irrelevant countries, and then along with China, nobody else is standing by them. This has been the greatest defeat in the diplomatic terms. Now, India, as I told you, will tighten the noose from all the sides, from Balochistan to Pakistan occupied Kashmir, to wherever that is possible. Because this is also a time, I think India will talk to, maybe in which way, I don't know, but they will also try talk to the Taliban. Because they have also been having...
They have also condemned the attack which has happened.
Yeah. That is exactly what I'm saying. Imagine if Taliban is condemning, then what Pakistan is up to. So India is going to leverage on that front as well. So India has multiple options that it wants to use. India will certainly use. I think we have to wait and watch, because with regard to this Prime Minister, predictions are a little difficult, because every time when we predict something, he comes up with something absolutely new. And he has that sort of a team, and also these fellows are absolutely experts. You have someone like Jaishankar, who's been in and out of diplomacy with such amount of profound knowledge. We have Doval, who himself has lived in Pakistan. He knows Pakistan better than the Pakistanis. And he also has those serving chiefs and number of people who are advisors, who have all been phenomenally good with regard to India. And we have managed the Chinese crisis very successfully. So I'm just trusting my government. I'm trusting my Prime Minister. And I'm just standing by him, whatever that he wants to take. The way some of the opposition leaders have said that this is a time we should just allow Prime Minister to take the decision that he wants to, and trust in his capability, trust in his leadership, because whatever he's going to do, he's going to do it in the national interest. He has nothing else to do, and for sure he will deliver what is best for India. And we are not going to be backing up. We are not going to be silent and take the pain on us. And we are accountable to a civil society that has chosen a particular government, that has chosen a Prime Minister. He is the popularly elected Prime Minister, and for sure he is going to respond in a very, very strong manner. And as I told you, all these options are open for India, and India is going to certainly use each of these things. That's my submission.
Thank you so much for your wonderful interview with us, Nanda Kishor ji. I hope I request you to give some regular insights of what is happening in and around India as well. Thank you so much, and we are honored to have you. And as you said, let us wait and watch. And Ivan, we also believe in our country and our Prime Minister as well. Let us wait and watch on what is going to be the India section. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Thank you.
Jai Hind.